All right, we're on, you guys.
We are. Thank you all very, very much for joining me today. This is the inaugural broadcast of this conversation with L Peter Callender. I'm so thrilled to make this happen on behalf of the African American Shakespeare Company and the executive director and founder of our organization, Sherry Young. Sherry, say hi.
Hi, you guys.
This is Sherry Young. So we are about to get started with our inaugural broadcast of this conversation with L. Peter Callender. My special guest, and I could not think of anyone that I would love to start this process with than my friend and colleague, writer, director, activist, singer, dancer, coach, brother, son, everything. This brother has done so much for Bay Area talent, certainly, and he's crossed the country and is doing things that we all wish we can be all a part of. And what I'm going to do to start with, I'm just going to read a few things. If I read all of his bio, by the end of the bio, I'll probably say, good night, everybody. Thank you all very much. So here we go. A Newport Beach Film Festival Artist of Distinction Award recipient. Colman Domingo is a Tony Award nominee, the Laurence Olivier nominee, Drama Desk, Drama League, and NAACP Award nominee, Obie and Lucille Ortel Award, winning actor, playwright, director. He stars in the Golden Globe nominated Barry Jenkins Sporling, James Baldwin drama If Beale Street Could Talk. Colman was star at the A24's Zola in the Noah Hawley sci-fi drama Lucy in the Sky for Fox Skylight. He's additionally, he will be starring in the independent, he starred in the independent film The God Committee with Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer, y'all. Frasier, right? Kelsey Grammer and Julia Stiles. He stars in AMC's Fear the Walking Dead, right?
Ooh!
I know, one of the most popular shows on TV right now, right?
Don't watch it.
Victor Strand recently guest starred on BoJack Horseman. I mean, this brother has done everything. He's a writer. His play Dot, one of the most popular plays in America right now. He did a number of other writing credits. One of my favorites that I saw in my gosh, the theater down at Sherry, help me.
Theater works.
Theater Works, right? Theater Works, right? A Boy and His Soul, Wild with Happy. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, my colleague, my mentor. I am so happy to introduce brother, friend, Colman Domingo. Colman, you on?
I'm on. Hey, my friends, how you doing?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
It's so good to see you guys. You kidding me? It's been so long, but you're always in my heart.
Thank you, thank you. How are you dealing with this shelter-in-place COVID-19 pandemic, man? You look great.
Oh, thanks, man. You know, I had to clean myself up for you since I knew I was going to be looking at people. You know, I had to coming out of the woods. You know.
Okay, the check is in the.
I had to put on a clean shirt and look like something. I really did spend time shaving and all, but I'm St. Peter today. So it's going as well as anyone else. You know what I mean? I feel like I've been home. I've been here in LA. I've been home with my husband, and I've been doing things like, it started off where I was like, oh, good. This is the first time in my entire adult career that I've been able to be home. So I was gardening and cooking and doing all that stuff. It was an extended vacation. And then, you know, we doubled down and we have to get out there in the streets and you know, and get it together. Yeah.
Have you been protesting out there?
Yeah, exactly. There's been protests here. I've been doing work online, doing work wherever we can, you know what I mean, to make it all happen. So I feel like that's taken up a lot of my time lately. And then I've been making sure that, I've been doing some self-care as well, just making sure that end of the day, chilling out. I'm smoking some ribs right now.
You are?
Getting ready. Yeah, exactly. And getting
right
ready
now.
To have a chill night. Oh yeah, I'm literally, the ribs are right out there smoking. 6 hours worth.
Peter and I will be down there in 5 hours.
Come on. I got some for you, Sherry. Come on.
Mama taught you well. Listen, man, one thing I want to say right now to everybody watching, Trevor Noah, eat your heart out. I got Colman Domingo. I got Colman Domingo. Listen, man, just you know the format here, we're just going to have a conversation.
Sounds good.
just going to talk about things, I got a few questions for you and things like that, but let's just riff back and forth. And then after a little while, we're going to open it up to conversation, to questions. Sherry will pose questions. We got a few people watching. So just be prepared for that. I hope you got a beverage, a glass of water.
I got some water, yeah.
And so you've been sheltering in place. How do you, I read over your credits. I see you. We're going to talk about Selma in a minute, of course, right?
Okay.
But I see you on the movies. I read your bio. You're doing this and that. You're writing. You're teaching. Where do you find the inspiration, man? Where does that all come from?
Well, I'll tell you, it honestly started in the Bay Area. It started in the Bay because I think the Bay, I moved there with the intention of being an actor. And because I always had so many questions, you all know me, I always have questions in rehearsals and all. And that would turn me into a bit of a dramaturg and a playwright, into a director. And I've always, maybe just always felt like that I couldn't afford to just have one career. When one thing wasn't going, the other thing had to be happening in order for us to stay in it. We know that. We've all had teaching gigs and things like that, and it hasn't ended for me. And I feel like my cast members on Fear the Walking Dead, they always know. They're like, if I'm in my trailer, if I have like 3 or 4 hours off, they knock on my trailer door, I'm writing.
Yeah.
I'm writing a play or musical, or I'm now screenplays and things like that. But I feel like I love the idea of switching into different forms all the time. And I feel like it started in the Bay Area because that's what we all do. You know, we all do. We all, every one of us, we're all multi-hyphenates. Everyone I know.
It's
because
true.
I feel like that, because I feel like that's the way I was groomed. And so that's why, so I feel like I'm still just doing what I was doing when I started, like in the downstairs basement theater Rhinoceros. But now I'm just doing it on, I guess, I have a deal with AMC, and I'm creating, and I have a production company. But then you also get support too. I have whether it's creative director, I have 2 assistants and things like that. Everyone helps make it work. You know what I mean? Which is good. Mm-hmm.
And you're the base, and your personality and your desire to help others, to lift up others. And I learned that from you. I have, when we worked together a long time ago. You're always so supportive. You're always like, yes, and what about? Let's make sure that happens. Let's make sure that happens. And that's always been your thing. So work never stops with you. You are.
And to be honest, Peter, I think that's why. I think I've always seen what we do, what Sherry has done, what you have done, is that we believe that we're in service. We're into service to something bigger than ourselves. And with that, right? And with that, you receive. People, as much as you give, and you have to give without any expectation of it coming back. And I trust now that I know I've been doing this, for 30 years, it comes back.
Someone told me, I had a guest over, and when you have a guest over, you put leftovers in a little container, right? And that person may take that home, right? And she said, well, Peter, what my mama taught me, when I bring back that container, let it have something in it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yes. Well, first of all, remember your mother, and your mother would definitely say that. Yes.
Return that container, but don't bring it back empty. Yeah. Bring back something in it, and that's what's been carrying you for a very long time. You always bring back that container with something in it, and it doesn't have to be a major something, but Colman, you just always bring that back with a little something, and that's.
Don't you think that? Thank you so much, and don't you think that that's what we are? Maybe I'm thinking that even more so, because I think the things that we have been creating or being a part of before the pandemic and before all this turmoil that we've been in, it's going to be different going out there now. And I feel like I've been inspiring. I've been teaching every so often to some students at Juilliard, and just having these deep conversations about what is going to be necessary. And I'm just telling them, you're going to have to show up with all of you and give even more as an artist.
Right.
And to trust that, like, what you have, what's gestating in you, you're going to be needed and in service. So use all that energy, use that frustration, use that fear,
And what else, when those students come to you as their mentor, as their teacher, as their professor, as their lecturer, what are some of the questions that they come to you with? And what is that one thing that you want to give that 19, 20, 21-year-old to say, look, think about, yes, work hard, all that stuff, but what is that culture?
I will tell you what Joy Carlin told me.
Oh, no.
Joan Mencken.
For those of you who don't know, Joy Carlin is one of the quintessential Bay Area matriarchal actresses that we've all worked with and all love here in the Bay Area. Joy, if you're listening, this is for you.
Joy, I heard you say this on a panel for the TBAs, and I never forget it. It really, and I always quote you. When students ask, oh, so after conservatory, and I should take this class, and what should I do, and get an agent and all that. And the one she says, I want you to go and get a full life. She says, go, fall in love, move, travel, figure things out. Don't let your life just be about acting, because you'll be very unfulfilled if it's just about classes and production and doing this. You need something to fill that up. She said, learn about the sciences, have an interest in politics, having all of that. You need all of that to do what we do. And so I echo Joy Carlin every single time. I tell students to do that. I leave them with that message. And I always tell them, no one can tell you not to create. You can always create from where you are. You cannot just say, well, I'm waiting for this, or well, I have to wait till my agent calls, or when I move, I'll do this, or no. You can create right now. And you can create with reckless abandon, whatever it is, whatever that's in you, a song, a story, you name it, you can do it. So that's what I always try to inspire students with.
Do you write something every day?
Me, I write a little something. If anything, I will take something in. Like I've been, like in the first month of the lockdown, I wasn't doing anything. I think I needed to unplug.
Join the club.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you did, right? Because I mean, you're also always doing the same. You're always working. Yeah. So you just had to just stop, right? And then I'm working on a new musical. Yeah.
It's not that you want to stop, you just have to. You just had to.
Yes, but also because get this, because people are, for the first month, people are like, well, Colman, I know you writing something. I know you creating something in there. I'm like, I'm creating nothing. I was like sitting, I found myself doing things like walking down the hall and then picking up a book. Like I'd probably even pick up this book. A book that I may have had for like a year. Yeah. And I just sat on the floor and started reading it. Just started reading and looking at art. Because I have architecture books all over the place, because that's my passion. And so I've been doing that because I'm filling it all up. I don't know it's not about production, what's going to happen with it. To like, oh, I'm reading this to create this thing. I'm like, no, I'm just taking it in.
Just filling up.
That's it. Filling up. I think this is a great time to fill up right now. Yes. You know?
I think that's a good way of putting it. Just fill up. Because sooner or later we're gonna be back out there, and we're gonna have to realize that, oh my gosh, the things that we took the time to fill up on, we better be ready. And that's what I tell a lot of people: be ready.
And get this, Peter. I think as well, something came to me where I thought, I honestly felt like, and you may agree with this. I think you and Sherry may agree that, like, I think we all move so quickly and we're always doing so much, that I think we all needed to stop. And I don't anticipate, I hope I don't go back to the way it was before.
I hope not. No.
I bought a house, and I had a house, my own home, for a year and a half, and I was in it for maybe 30 days total. Wow. I was like, that's not sustainable. Wow. I need to have those times to just do nothing. Yeah. And I have to create that. And I feel like these days I want to put it in the schedule like it's a job. Self-care. 1 month, nothing.
So when did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I need to work. I need to create. I need to figure out something, because you've got so much going on. And was there ever a time was there ever a panic in you that says, okay, let me call my agent, let me call my manager, let me call this person, let me call that person?
You know what, Peter? Every so often, I think I had those moments. I think I've always told people I feel more powerful because I create, because I'm writing things, I'm directing things. I always have something going on. So even while I'm waiting for that role to happen or something, I'm like, but it won't define me. You know what I mean? It's like, so people are like, oh, you're on a show, Fear the Walking Dead, and it's a show that you can get killed off in a minute. So I've been on the show for 6 years now, and people put that in your head, and you're like, and I'm like, well, you know what? I trust that the universe will provide, and I have to trust that the next journey I'll be ready for it at that time, but I'm not worried about it. I'm like, yeah, if you guys are gonna kill me, I got other things to do.
That's right. When my residuals come in, I got some writing to do.
Exactly.
I know you mentioned Joy Carlin, and I know there are other people that have inspired you. Could you mention a teacher or someone, and what was that other advice that you got? That person that says, Colman, I need for you to learn that monologue and I want it done by Thursday, you know, or your Shakespeare. What you've done so much from Shakespeare to Wilson. Um, was that one person that inspired you?
A few people. I would say a few immediately, because the moment you talk about we talk about the Bay, I think of Joan Mencken, who taught me how to have the heart of a clown. I think of Joan Spangler, my Jones. Joan really did believe, she still believes in me as an artist and believes that I can, she never saw this tall, 6 foot tall black guy and thought that I had limits to what I could do. She was always trying to, hey, he can do this, he can do that. So I feel like that's why I feel like I've always been outside the box in what I do, because I've been, the people who believed in me believe that I can do anything. I would say Amy Potoskin. I would say Margot Hall. I would say Sean San Jose, who's still my closest friend, and we still work together. I had him done some consulting work for me. So it's like I feel like I have so many people who have told me that my ideas mattered and my voice mattered. And I will also say Doug Holzclaw, who used to run Theater Rhinoceros. He was the first person who told me I had something to say as a writer. That's what, and that's meaningful, because he said, I said, Colman, you always have so many questions. He said, would you want to write something, create something? I said, well, I've never done it before. He said, I think you've got something to say.
That's nice.
And so then he gave me the basement space at Theater Rhino for a month in the summer. And of course, you know, I'm from West Philly. Somebody give me something for free, I'm taking it. So I was like, I'm gonna create something. And I did, and it became my first play, Up Jump Springtime. And that helped me become a writer and I feel like a creator, and like help me believe that I can actually create a room and create the environment. And I think that's also been very important to me as I continue in my career, is to build rooms. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Look, man, it's great. And all those folks, Joan, I've worked with Joan, and of course, Joan sends her best. So all those folks, we are still on the Colman Domingo cold off bandwagon. So Dot, tell me, talk about Dot for a second. And before you start, I look, man, whenever I see clippings from that Marjorie, right?
Yeah.
You know, she and I are good friends, right? I coached her to her very first theater gig.
I did not know that.
You did not know that? It was Eunice.
Okay, you guys have to let us know who you're talking about.
Okay, sure. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Marjorie, what's Marjorie's last name?
Johnson.
Yes.
Johnson.
Marjorie Johnson.
Marjorie Johnson, 112 years ago when I lived in New York, she, Susan Settles, Carrie Ruff, all of us hung out in New York years and years ago. And I used to coach her, and she wanted to audition for Eunice in Streetcar Named Desire, way up, like, I don't know, way upstate New York. And I coached her, and she got it. And she brought us up there to see her. That was her very, very first play that she ever did.
Get this, and you know that when we were doing the People's Temple, that started at Berkeley Rep, and we did it at the Guthrie. She came on, she came on to understudy for Novella Nelson.
Right.
And then when I met her, she was just so kind and lovely. You know, she's the loveliest, one of the loveliest, hardest working actresses out there. But I think, you know, also she sort of has fallen into that person that was always covering the other actor. But she was, of course, every actor who knows this, that like the one who's the understudy, they're a rightful actor in their own. They just need that shot. And I said to her when we were doing that years ago, and I said, I want to work with you someday. I said, you're so lovely. And she reminded me of my mother. She looks so much like my mom. I was like, Marjorie, you look, and her spirit's like my mom. So cut to, what is that? 15 years later or something?
Yeah.
You know, I've had my losses. I lost my mother. I wrote this play, which was about, Dot is about dementia. It's about a matriarch in the early stages of dementia in her adult children. And this came from, my mother didn't have dementia. My mother had lupus and passed on. But my friends, I had a lot of friends who were dealing with a parent with dementia, Alzheimer's. And I wanted to explore that. And so, also I wanted to see a Black family drama that is, of course, it's not about race, it's not about anything else, it's just about like, how do we do this? And I centered it on Christmas. And it's something I did, and we did a production at the Vineyard Theater,
Yes.
Actors Theater of Louisville. It is played, I think, over 15 theaters around the world.
Yeah.
There's a production that's going to happen on the West End, and I'm turning it into I've turned it into a television series.
Nice.
But getting back to Marjorie,
Yeah.
Marjorie she brought so much love, and she really was, I wanted to create this woman who was that regal matriarch with her silver hair pulled and all the things that we know about our families that I think I never see. And I thought, this is an inner city family, a well-to-do family. This is what our families look like. Again, I write and create from a space knowing that I don't see that. When I see inner city, I don't see these people that I actually know. I'm like, people who, I'm like, oh no, my neighbors, I grew up in the inner city. They went up to Martha's Vineyard and things like that, and everyone has college degrees. It wasn't as limiting as what we usually see of our experience. So that's why I create. So I created that play, and it's brought me so much love. And I think anytime anyone mentions Dot, it's I've written many things now. I've written musicals and screenplays and series, but Dot is one of the most special plays in my heart.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know that, and to watch you talk about it, and when I told some friends, I've got some friends coast to coast, my friends at American Stage in St. Petersburg, they said, please, Stephanie, the artistic director and CEO, she said, please tell Colman that I saw that show and I loved it, quote unquote. Oh. And so many people who've seen that show, I've not seen it yet, but I saw, the other things that you've done out here, but I've not seen that, so I'm waiting for it to come out here.
I think, you know what, I think we shouldn't just wait for it. I think you should direct a production of it.
I
would love for you to direct a production of it. Who knows? Maybe we can do it with African American Shakes. I don't know.
Yes.
Colman, brother, I would be honored to. Maybe a co-production with American Stage.
Wouldn't that be beautiful? I would love that, because I love you. I love you as a director in your eye, and I think that you would love this family.
That is the best. Thank you. Let's get deep for a second. And I know we're catching up and having conversation here, and Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Go.
It's funny. I've been at this moment, I think, in my life, and I think in many lives, especially a person who is a public person, I've had to make a decision as to how deep I get into it, what I think my responsibility is. And this is the one time that I felt like, oh, there's no sitting this out in any way. Usually I don't put anything out publicly. I just tell people to vote. I don't tell you who to vote for. I just say it's important to vote.
Yep.
I don't tell you how to lean one way or the other. I just put out the spirit of what I feel. That's too subtle. I think it's too subtle right now because we don't live in that world anymore. I think it has to be direct and head on. How you feel, where you stand, and holding people accountable as well. So I've taken, and maybe that's also being 50 years old, and it's more like, fuck it. This is what I believe.
You're not 50. Stop it.
I'm 50. I'm 50. I'm 50.
Oh, come on now. Come on. No. Because I'm only 48, so. Sorry, go ahead. I don't know how
you went backwards on me. You just Peter goes backwards. I go that way.
I don't know how you got ahead of me, brother. Sorry, go ahead. You all serious.
But you know what I mean? I feel like it's like now it's time to be direct about it all, because it does feel like it's like, yeah, our lives are at stake, truly, and our grandchildren, everyone's lives are at stake, and I think everyone's in it, and no one's for my money, I feel like no one's allowed to not be in it in some way. I feel like even like on social media and online, I'm like, if you're silent, you're complicit, and I'm letting you know. Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of calls. I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls from our. We both signed that We See You document. Yeah. We'll talk about it in a minute, or you can talk about it whenever you feel the need. Yeah. To interject about that, but we're all getting calls from our colleagues, white colleagues, saying, "Yeah, what do you need from us? How do we help? How do we change what we're doing?" There's in your opinion, Colman, again, it's a very sensitive question here, but the white community, right, who thinks they're aware and they're sensitive, and they're trying very hard to let us know as Black artists that they care. right? What do they most need to know right now about what we need and what we care about and how they can help? What do they need to know?
I think, you know what, I would say like, okay, I'm gonna set it up with this. I think I'll set it up this way because that's a big old question.
It is
but,
a big
but here we go.
Time to unfold it, but yeah.
The moment Trump won the election, I went to Detroit, and one of my colleagues there, I got in the car and she was undone. You know, one of my Caucasian colleagues, she was just like wringing her hands. She was just going through it in the car. And I was kind of like, this is like 3 days later, I was sort of like, you all right? And she was going through it so hard and I said, well, you do realize that I understand that this is what this country is. So it took me a couple days and I thought, okay, but it was her awareness. She was like, I had no idea that this is what we're up against. So she realized that she was the other as well. This well-meaning liberal white woman realized she was also the other. That she was like, it's about all of us fighting the system. You know what I mean? And you know, for what's right for everyone. And so so I think that right there was the beginning of it, the awareness and the awakening of it. And I think it's just about getting more education. I think we know that our systems have kept us not educated on the things that really matter, on the things that can actually bring us together, and sow those seeds of discontent. I think that it's about getting more awareness. And I tell people, it's like, it is shocking that, like, I feel like, you know, we all know that, like, it seems like African-American history is only for us. It's like, no, that's American history. Yes. That we should all know the history of America. Exactly. Everyone. It shouldn't just be African-American. That's not a separate thing. This is who this country is. But we like to believe that, but it's all part of the lie. So I think the thing is, I think I just always been telling my lovely colleagues, like, hey, you just recognize we've all been under a complete lie. Yes. And some of us have recognized that earlier on, and they had to, like people like you and I, like Sherry. Now you have to do your work. And the first thing I always tell, and this is make you laugh, I just thought, first of all, y'all gotta stop calling me right now. Stop calling me, asking me, am I okay? I don't want to be the black friend. You don't ask. Stop calling me. Yeah. I say, I'm busy, you know. Yeah. But I just tell people to actually, you know, listen. Yeah. I think the most important thing is to truly listen, because I've been on the phone with some execs lately and studio heads, you name it, and they still are talking and they're talking and trying to figure it out. But I think actually, I'm like, no, you just have to listen. You have to and be open to really hear. And when I say about, like, I'm telling you to take stock, actually get an awareness of, like, all the systems that are in place, from really start to know about, like, healthcare and food and supermarkets and the way things are, the lines are drawn in neighborhoods, and you will understand how systemic it is. And then you'll have to do the work. So I think to have an awareness of everything, not just say, oh, what can I do about race? Because that's just that's part of the problem. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, there's a larger issue. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and look, you've come from the Bay Area. We both worked at Cal Shakes. We both worked at Bay Area theaters out here. And over the years, we have done so much, right? Yeah. Now you're creating your own stuff, and you're creating your own work, and people are calling you. And while you were coming up, Colman, and while you were working at all these theaters, and I'm sure you got stories about Cal Shakes, I know you've got stories about the Magic, I know you may have stories about ACT, but is there a story you can share? And that's a bit of the question. But was there ever a time that you had to speak up for yourself as a backstage or on stage or in an audition, as a black man, as a gay black man, as a you know, could you share any bit of that? You don't have to tell too much. You don't have to name names.
Yes, I can, and it's funny because I do think it is important to speak on it. There has been countless times in my career where I feel like, honestly, I look back at it now that I guess I was complicit because I didn't speak up, because I didn't know if I had the space to speak up. All the things we carry around, from when we go into rehearsals to backstage to dealing with crews, you name it. I've had situations where I had a situation, I could tell you, I had a situation with, and we all know it because I had lost my mind on stage at TheaterWorks when I was doing my play Wild with Happy, where the sound designer didn't believe that he worked for me. He pretty much told me that because we were trying to work the cues. Now here I am starring in it, and I wrote it, but yet still he refused. And Danny Shea had to get him all the way together. It's like, I said, you have no, I actually had to say, if I wasn't here, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have a job. But he didn't understand that. He thought he worked for something else. Yeah. And I had to get him all the way together. So that, again, it's like, and I remember Danny and I, that we were also so shocked that this guy was treating me this way. And I think, no, you must listen to me. I'm actually the center. I don't think I'm the center of every room. No. But this one, I'm like, I wrote the goddamn thing. The whole reason everyone was there was because of me. The whole reason TheaterWorks wanted to do it. Yeah. And because they've always been so supportive as well. And I feel like, and so it was just, you know, sometimes just that one person, and you know that it is racially motivated, because you're like, he has a full out refusal to listen to this man of color standing in front of him. Even if you, and I was speaking I was trying to get the cues, and I feel like I have a right to it, and that's why I create my own work as well, so I can have a seat at the table. Yeah. Yeah. So situations like that. But, you know, I feel like I handle it. You know, I have no problem with taking up the space and actually like risking sometimes and just saying, you know what, if I don't work here again, fine. You know, I want to work where I'm respected. I love TheaterWorks, and I'll always work there. Of course, and always great. Yeah, so it wasn't TheaterWorks. It was that one guy who I don't remember his name, but I remember that situation so well. So when you brought that up, it came from a deep place. Because I haven't thought about that in years. But yeah. I thought, oh wow, yeah, I had to stand up. I had to stand up for myself. And this was. And I say this with love and respect. This is when you became Colman Domingo. But was there a time when you were coming up when somebody says, so, like for example, I years and years and years ago, I auditioned for a play called Serious He-Man Ball. Worst title. I know. That's the worst title ever. Right? And I was born in the West Indies. I grew up in England. I I came to the States as a young kid. I went to PS 80 in the Bronx, and I lived in Brooklyn, and right? And there was this play auditioning in Brooklyn called Serious He-Man Ball, about 5 brothers who grew up in the hood, went away, came back. One brother was a doctor, one was a lawyer, one went to jail, blah, 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 blah. And I came in and I'm doing my basketball thing, and I'm shooting, I'm auditioning, and my training, be off book. So I'm off book and I'm doing my thing and I'm trying to be, and the director says, you're just not black enough. Oh, yeah. You're just not black enough. And then he puts me up against the wall talking about my callback. I was good enough to get a callback. Then after my callback, he puts me up against the wall and was like, eeny, meeny, miny. By the time he got to Mo, I was on the train. I was on the D train heading to the Bronx, right? Yeah. Stuff like that shaped me as a young actor. Was there an experience like that as a young actor? Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I felt like I was never, sometimes the same thing. Sometimes I didn't feel like I was black enough, and I couldn't understand what that meant. Or people had assumed something about me. And I thought, you have no idea who I really am. I think that I feel like I used to get confused, especially when I first moved to New York. And let's say if I had a meeting with the director, I already had the audition. They wanted me to come back in and actually meet with the director. And I would meet with the director. And then I was so surprised when I would get the comment, oh, he's not the character. I was like, wait, what? I was being myself, actually. Oh, you wanted me to still be the character when it's really confusing. And you're like, no, I thought you wanted me. And so I think it takes a long time for people, to be honest, to be comfortable with all that they are and whatever it is. It's like, you know what? I can't make excuses for any of it. But I used to make excuses that I was too thin, or I was too this, or you'd be afraid as a gay man that people would say, oh, he's too, if they know what they would do or how they would pigeonhole you. At some point, I've always just been in the center of who I was in my career. And that's always been important to me and I feel like the beauty is, I feel like it's been received as such too. But I know that I had to be very clear about that narrative and say, no, you're not going to limit me because I can do anything. Good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we all learned that about you a long time ago. And I had the pleasure, and I can say this because we've known each other for a long time, when you were a young actor, a younger actor. Yes, I know you were to direct you. Right? And we went to Paris and all that. And from that point on, I said, there's nothing Colman Domingo can't do. It was Joe in Gilded Six Bits, One of my favorite pieces.
Right? And the sentimentality, the sweetness, the charm. You brought me to tears. You brought us all to tears. You were playful. You were strong. You were able to speak Zora's language as if it were your own. I mean, I just don't think there's any. I thought to myself, holy cow, look at this man. And all I had to say was, come in from over there. Exit over here, right? Because Colman, you brought so much, and I can see why you are where you are, because you keep bringing so very much to the role. And you know, when you were talking about that one story about that lighting designer, or this other story, years ago when I first came out here, Tony Taccone auditioned me for Major Barbara, and I came out here to do Major Barbara. And there was one member of the cast, and I won't mention his name, who just knew I was going to mess up his play. He just knew I was going to mess up his play. And one day I had to say, okay, look, did you audition for this play? Yes, I did. So did I. We're in the same room together. Back off. I got it. And I'll share with you, I don't want to harp on that story, but I'll share with you 15 years later, I see him in a show with our brother Stephen Anthony Jones and BB Newworth, who's a dear friend of mine. We went to Juilliard together. It was a threepenny opera, and I bought a bottle of scotch because I wanted to celebrate my friends. And he was in the dressing room, and I walked in and I handed off my scotch. I said, "Great work." And he said, "Peter, before you leave, I just want to apologize. I was such a blankety blank 15 years or 16 years ago." So that kind of renewal and rebirth, and the fact that something like that didn't stop you from being who you want to become, and it didn't stop me either. But I remember that situation so very well. And I always think about, those people help shape who we are.
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of the, and to piggyback on there, a lot of the things, it's funny, I've been thinking about this a lot of the no's have also been useful to me. That when I didn't know something, or when someone said, "Oh no, you can't do that," or I remember I called up. There used to be an agency that I didn't know how to get an agent, and I remember I was just cold calling, and I said, "Hi, I'm an actor in San Francisco. How can I get an agent?" And he immediately said, "If you don't know, don't call," and slammed the phone down. And I was so hurt. And I was like, oh my God. But a lot of the no's and a lot of people saying no to you does really help shape you, because you're like, oh no, you can either choose to lay down or you can keep getting back up. And you get up and you're a little stronger. You take those licks and you keep going. But then I've also had a blessing of being guided by many. I saw Sue Harlow on here, by the way. Many people, I'm a product of a lot of love, and I know that. And it comes from, whether it's my mother, it's the people who truly see me. And I owe that a lot to my Bay Area community as well. People who I still have long relationships with, and I always want to create with, and I always take that with me to create in other spaces. And I feel like I'm always trying to use that in television spaces now. I'm like, whoa, the way we do it is this. There's no ego here. You just get in here and create the work to create the work, And I don't know, I take that with me. I think I look at the people who said no to me, that's a portion of it. But the people who've always said yes and say, "Fly, we trust you." Yeah. And you've given me that. When you direct me, be in the room, say, "Colman, we want what you have. Bring all of it." And that's why I'm kind of the actor. It's hard to I can't bring half of me. If I'm going to do something, I'm bringing on all of it.
You did.
I'm bringing it all from rehearsal to publicity. I say, when I'm in, I'm in, and they know it. I'm not half stepping any in.
That production of Midsummer Night's Dream at Cal Shakes,
we had a blast.
Any references of that?
Stories? You had a turban.
Yeah. You ain't got to talk about the turban, brother.
Listen,
come on.
Peter had the best costume. I was like, Peter, every time I work with you, why? I remember this. I said, why you always got the best costume? Because I've been there with the costume designer, and I'm like, wait a minute, let's get him right there. I learned that from you. You're like, I know. It's all detail. This is all detail of my character.
I made people crazy. I made costume designers. They would be like, "Okay, Peter, you're wearing that shirt." I'm like, "Okay." And I would iron. It's true, and I made people crazy. It's not that you didn't iron it, but I
but it's your detail. It's the way. Listen, I feel like that's rubbed off on me because I honestly, I feel like I am. It has to be specific. It has to be very specific to the character, and I will call them on that. Like, okay, but there's a reason. If it's a little tight here, it's because I've had it on for 2 years and it rubbed here. So let's make a story out of it.
Exactly.
You know, right?
Exactly. Look, man, I want people to ask questions and all that. I want to talk about your incredible work in Selma. Now, this background, y'all, is I wanted this here because I wanted to celebrate my friend and Selma. I've seen it twice. My friend Lorraine Toussaint. Did you know like Lorraine Toussaint and I are friends?
I knew that you. Yes, exactly. Yes,
fellow Trinidadians, and she played Boyden. And there was a speech she had, and I wrote it down, and I could not find where. But it's a speech where she's.
You're prepared.
Yes, be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared. That speech when she and Coretta get out of the car.
It's one of my favorite speeches. It's one of my favorite moments in the whole film. When she comes out of there and Coretta Scott King is nervous about meeting with Malcolm X.
And they're holding arms. Yeah.
Yeah. And she says, you've already been prepared. Your ancestors, the blood and sweat of your ancestors have prepared you for this moment. You're already prepared.
Brother, I know. And I tell you what, I'm so glad I wrote it down and I couldn't find it because I've got so many notes everywhere, but I'm glad I couldn't find it because hearing you say it is basically why I brought it up. It was one of my favorite speeches in the play. Could you share any stories for us? Could you share what was the audition like for you, Oprah Winfrey? I mean, being next to these iconic my gosh.
I have a couple moments to tell you about. Yes, please. I think that, well, the first thing is this. Because I'm possibly, I don't know, I tried to stick with my convictions. I won't get into the long story of it, but I turned down Selma at first when I got the offer. David Oyelowo, he called me up and he said, Colman, we need you. We would love for you to play, Abernathy. I'm like, oh, well, I'm committed to do this other thing. And it was just like, I was doing A Boy in a Soul in Philadelphia. Right. And then I was like, I don't know. I was just like, it's going to be someone else's blessing. Go to bed, wake up. I see a documentary on. It's about Selma. And I'm like, that's weird. And I'm watching that. It was like the universe is telling me to rethink this. And then I thought, well, maybe I can kind of do both. We'll see. The theater wasn't happy with it. And then I just started thinking, like, I feel like this work. I read the script again. I'm like, this is as poignant. It's not only a film, it's a movement, it's a march. I've got to be a part of it. I remember I waited with my friend Sharon Washington, who I think is on here too. I was like, Sharon, what should I do? Exactly. So I was trying to figure this out. You go to your crew, you go to your team. What should I do? Yep. And they give you advice. And then it just worked out that the production had to go away. I was hoping it would go on pause, but it had to go away in order to do this work. I go down there. When I tell you, and I knew this film honestly was going to change my life. The idea of like the first person we met with like Andrew Young and John Lewis, and I met with Juanita Abernathy and all these greats of the civil rights movement. And I was asking, we were able to have audience with them and ask questions. And the thing that was most important for me was to ask the human questions, because we didn't want what we can get in Wikipedia or the history books. I would say, well, what did Ralph Abernathy eat? And they would tell me how he liked to tell jokes, or what he would do with King, or how he would pray for King before they went on stage. So all that texture, all that stuff, Ava would infuse in there. So I would even, off stage, before David did any of his major speeches, I prayed for him. So it was David and I was there with him as a brother to support him off stage as well as on screen. It was like we were doing that work. So it really was like the lines were blurring. And I still remember there's one moment. It's funny, I just watched the film. I hadn't seen the film in years, and I just watched it. And I remember the day that Maya Angelou died was also the same day that Oprah had to do that major scene with Bull Connor where she gets knocked down. Yes. And it was all emotional. It was all Oprah. That was the same day. And I remember Oprah came in, and I found out Miss Angelou passed away. And I was the only one in the makeup trailer. And I was like nervous. I didn't know what to say or do. But Oprah, one of the most powerful women in the world, came in, and I could tell her energy was down. and she sat in the chair next to me. And I knew Oprah enough, not super well, but Spirit just told me, hold her hand. And I just reached out and I held her hand. And I just sat there, we just held hands, and she let me. And we just held hands and hung out. And I want to be there for her. I'm like, everyone needs somebody to be there for on this day. I knew how much, I said, I'm like, I can't, that's all, I can give her that as a human being, to just give contact. We just sat there and held hands while we got our makeup and hair done.
And Colman, that's the thing, man. And there are a couple of iconic moments, and I do want to give chance for people to ask questions. But I've got one more big question for you. But the thing about that moment and this film, all the things you're talking about, the way when you guys were in the car, and your amazing director, I don't know what her direction was, but there were so many silences, Colman.
Yeah. Ava was not afraid. Ava was definitely not afraid of the silences. And she also, I always tell people this, Ava always greeted us every day with a hug. It was an embrace every day because she knew the work that was required.
Difficult,
and she wanted to know, and we wanted to know that we were loved, and we became that family of that troop of people. We are a family. Those are, and we could be a dysfunctional family, but we're definitely a family.
And those moments, that moment that you so eloquently described of holding Oprah's hand, and that moment that you knew and it wasn't about conversation, it wasn't about anything else, it was just about, I'm here. Those moments were throughout the film, which made it so right for me as a director, right? To say, yeah, we don't have to constantly just feel the prayer you spoke of, the dynamic conversations you had with the real people in real world. All of that, Colman, reflected in the work you were doing. And it please, if you have not seen Selma, Netflix is generous enough to pass it on to us. Please click and watch. Watch with your family. Watch with your loved ones. One of the most important moments for me, and I don't know, again, man, I don't know if it was deliberate. It probably was. When the 16th Street Baptist Church, that explosion
killed me.
Slayed me. Okay, but in the stillness, as the dust was flying everywhere, in the middle of the screen were piano keys.
Yeah,
there was a piano. And I don't know why that just rocked my world. Why did she put a piano keys, the black and white keys, and the foot pedal in the middle? And for some reason, that broke me. Yes.
The loss, the promise that those keys had.
Yes.
The promise. It was their song that was interrupted, and and she wanted to land in it. And I love the way it comes in. Love is a weird way to state it, but it comes in the most shocking way, as one of those deaths should. Yes. The way we should feel it, the way anyone who's human, it can resonate. You can't deny these young women, these young girls in their lives. They were just walking, and then suddenly they're gone.
And they were gone. And the music died. The music, and whether, please, if you speak with your director, please tell her for all of them. Thank you. Right?
I will.
Now I want to, speaking of these little children, recently, Colman, you posted on your Facebook page a picture of yourself as a young boy. Yes, I'm stalking you, brother. I'm sorry. And if you had him look into the camera, you know where I'm going with this. Look, and that young boy is standing in front of you right now. What advice would you give him? What advice? And take a second to think about it if you want. Just as we're talking about those little girls at the 16th Street Baptist Church whose lives were diminished, was stopped at that moment. What advice would you give that young boy that young boy with that beautiful smile that your mother was so proud of back then, and still is? She's still looking down on you, brother.
Thank you, man. I would tell him, I think I know what I would tell him. I would tell him to keep that smile, because it's going to be challenged over and over again. But to keep it and to hold on to it and to know its purpose. You were given that smile because you are a beautiful child of God, and you're here with purpose. And if you trust that purpose and that intention, that will take you through all the storms that this life has to offer. And you will continue to find light and love and beauty and joy. Just hold on to it. Hold on to it.
See, I knew you were going to say something today that's going to rock, that's going to get to me. I knew it.
Peter, you and I are both old softies, you and I.
we both cry at open parking spaces in San Francisco. Jerry, does anyone have any questions? I've got a bunch. I could talk to Colman all day, but does anyone?
We have a few people that have some questions, so I have to forgive everyone because if I mess this up, it's not a bad intention. There's a Dana Miller. Lord knows, there's a Dana Miller who I am going to unmute and let me see if I can actually have her appear with us.
Hi, Dana.
Hello.
Dana, are you there? Okay, see.
Dana, if you can just unmute your microphone, you may just ask the question. You don't need to be on camera.
Oh. Okay, well, see, this is how it's going so far.
Come on, Dana.
That's okay.
Let me see if I can get Elizabeth Stone in here, and let's try this with someone else. So hold on. Allowed to talk. Okay, Elizabeth, can you unmute your microphone?
I think so.
Hi.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. A question for Colman?
Yes, actually, I'm a commissioner with the San Mateo County Arts Commission and working on some initiatives to encourage organizations in the county to bring in more artistic work that's reflective of the African American experience and some of the social change that's going on right now. I was just wondering if you have anything that you're doing in the works on that right now, or resources that we might recommend to our organizations within our county.
I would say, I would start with say, really just investigate some, especially some young Black playwrights and creators. I think that there's many platforms. I feel like I've been working with, whether I work with students who do spoken word, I think it's something about really hearing what young people are saying right now and what they're saying about the world and their culture, because it really is, it's really cutting edge. And it's something about spoken word immediately. It made me think of spoken word because I think you're really hearing the consciousness of youth right now, especially about young BIPOC. So I think that that's useful. Also engage them with some playwrights they may not be familiar with. Of course there's August Wilson and there's, but there's also Dominic Morrisseau and there's Lynn Nottage and there's Colman Domingo and Robert O'Hara, and there's York Walker. There's all these young, there's great resources. I think just I would even really I put in sometimes in Google. I'll just put African American playwrights and really start just getting some plays, and so you can get the breadth of experience of African Americans as well. So it's not limited. It's not just historical, but it's also contemporary. And I think, and I say that because I want you to learn about whether it's folks in the inner city or in the suburbs, but people having experiences that are just human as well, that are not race centric or gender centric, but it's just about like, how does a Black family deal with, mom with Alzheimer's, And I think that's a strong way, because for my money, I like to see plays like that because it just makes me realize, we're more alike than I'm alike. They deal with it. You can find yourselves in those families.
Yeah, that's wonderful suggestion. That's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
That's a great question. Do we have anybody else, Sherry?
We don't have any hands raised, but we have some questions in the question and answer feed.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to do that real quick? Or?
Yes, Richard asks, how has working in the Bay Area shaped your artistic lens, Colman?
It shaped it fully. I think I came in as a baby in a way. I moved there when I was 21 years old. And I think everything that I've gotten from the Bay Area, from the way we create, I think I like to akin the Bay Area to Chicago, another place where I really respect artists there. You go to Chicago, you go to the Bay Area, people are doing the work to do the work. They're not doing it just like, in hopes for it to do that, or it's going to do all these other things outside of it. A lot of times people in LA, they'll do a play because, they'll get seen for a series. People are craftsmen in the Bay Area. and I was taught by these master craftsmen. I think I can always just think of so many people who shaped me, and really, they're people who are master craftsmen and women. And so I think everything. I think it's also, there's something in me because I think inherently people in the Bay Area are political. So I think that the things that I'm drawn to. So now when I look at my career, in hindsight now, the films that I've done that are about social consciousness or change, it makes sense. It's like that's been ingrained in me, and the seeds have been planted. I mean, Berkeley Rep is one of the most major, they wouldn't say it, but it's a political theater in many ways. Tony Ciccone would say that. Yeah, you know when he was running it, there's politics running throughout a production of the Scottish play, you name it, Cal Shakes, and the way we do work, and the way, at least when I was there, the way it was represented in terms of, like, you can see, Peter Callender playing roles that, they're strong and courageous and interesting and compelling. And I don't know. So I think it just really, the Bay Area has informed everything that I've done, to be honest.
When someone sends you a script, right? It says, Colman, we'd love for you to play so-and-so in so-and-so. And you say, oh, wow, yes, where do I sign? Okay, good. You've signed the contract, you've got the script, you've got your number 2 pencil, right? And what's one of the first, whether it's Shakespeare or a contemporary play, what's the first thing that Colman Domingo does?
I will read the script, and I think with the character in mind, and I know the character is right if it scares me a little bit, if I don't know exactly how to play it.
I love that.
If I don't know exactly how to play it, and I'm curious about it, and I think it's really, it has all these elements that I'm interested in, like when I played Joseph Rivers in If Beale Street Could Talk. I actually auditioned for Michael's role. Actually, I thought, oh, when Barry wanted to, my agents were like, oh, but Barry wants you to work on this film with him, but a different role. I was like, what role? And he was like, Joseph Rivers. And I thought, really? I didn't see myself playing. But I'm like, oh, I don't have children, but I'm like, I can be someone's daddy. And, play Tiana Paris's daddy, and Kiki Lane's. And I thought that made sense to me. And the husband of Regina King, I don't know what. So to get there and to find it, it was I had to find it with the men that I know and put that on, my stepfather and my brother and things like that. And so it wasn't like I got this. It was more like, oh, I'm really curious about this man and these men, and now I get to possess them, and I'm a little terrified.
Now, does that terror translate to being a director as well? You got a script saying, Colman, we'd love for you to direct this. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, especially like I've been directing on my show, Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And that is more like a film. I don't know, they should stop calling that a show, because if you're directing, it's like $8 million episodes and, 8 days of prep, 8 days of shooting, it's like shooting a film in 8 days, for real.
Yeah.
Well, 16 days total. And it's really, I'm always terrified. You always feel like, Peter, I think we'll always feel like, somebody's going to find out that I have no idea what I'm doing. But
Colman, come closer. I feel the same way.
You always feel, but I think that's a good thing. I think my friend John Kander of legendary Kander Neb, he wrote me a song. He was so nervous. He was like, Colman, because I asked him, could he write me a lullaby for a company that needed as a benefit. He was this legendary man, created Cabaret, Chicago, you name it, Scottsboro Boys. He was so nervous and intimidated. He was like, I hope it's good. I hope it's what you want. And you're like, you could just sneeze on some paper and I'd be like, it's genius.
Read it.
But he was just like, but I think hopefully, Peter, I think that, and I think I'm trying to teach this too, I think it's good to have that in your heart, because it by being willing to fail, by being willing to say, I don't know, is actually okay. Because it moves you to knowing. The more you know, the more you know. So I know even as a director, when I get a script and whether you get a script, as much as you know, you keep breaking it down, you start to know the special effects and stunts and all this other stuff and how it can possibly go. And then you're like, it could all fail.
But that's what keeps you coming to rehearsal, though. That's what keeps you scribbling. And look, we're almost out of time, brother, and I can talk to you. We can do this for another 2 hours, but I should be wrapping up. And Sherry's like, time. Look, I love you. We've been friends for years and years. If at any time, I'm going to end with one thing. This isn't it. But if at any time that look, directing anything that you've offered, African American Shakespeare, American stage, wherever, please let us know. I would be more than happy to do your work. I've written a play myself. If you have time, I'd love to send it to you. I'm so scared.
You can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Be afraid. Yes, why not? Of course. It's your baby.
But anyway, thank you so much for all you do for all of us. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your professionalism, your all the things you've done. And I want to end it with this, and I hope you appreciate it. I know personally what your mom meant to you, because everybody just look at his face. Because we shared her spirit. She was my mom, she was your mom, she was Margot's mom, she was Sophia's mom, she was everybody's mom in that show in Paris. I was so thankful to Word for Word for allowing me to bring you into that production. I was so grateful for your talent, for your experience. When you said to me that my mom has always wanted to come to Paris, and it was Word for Word, Sue, if you're listening, thank you, that brought you to Paris, which ultimately brought your mom to Paris. And I know how you felt about her, how you still feel. So I would love to end this with your opus to your mom. Talk to her. And what would you share with us? Those of us who have lost our moms, those of us who still have our moms. Colman, you are a force to be reckoned with. And I know a lot of that came from your mom. So I want to close by asking you just to riff as long as you want.
Well, my mother used to always tell me she wanted to go to Paris ever since she was a little girl. And then when you and Sue Harlow, Joanne Winter, and asked me to come along and go to Paris, I thought first it was my dream too to go to Paris. And so fulfilled that. It was the first time I'd ever been. Flown to Europe first time. Wow, and I thought, well, yeah. And so I thought with this gift, I don't know, maybe I've always thought that. I think I try to be a gift to others. I think my mother raised me that way. So if you've received something, it's nice to open the door for someone else. So I invited my mother to come for her 60th birthday. And she had the time of her life. I loved getting to know my mother as a woman in Paris. When we would go down on the red lights district, and she was like, oh, first of all, she was buying every token a treat, and she couldn't stop thinking about my dad. She was buying everything, and everything has Paris on it. And she was like, oh, what's in there? I was like, and it was a lingerie shop. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going in there with you. And she was like, come on, stop being so conservative. Not me, I'm not conservative. But she wanted me to go in there. She wanted to try on like some lingerie or something. I thought, oh my God, no, you're not, I can't go in there. No. And then she was, I think in that trip to Paris, she wanted me to become, I think we did become her friend instead of mother-son. Because the way we experienced, and I just love, my mother's so curious. She was always asking questions to everybody, asking you, well, how does that happen? Where's that coming? What's in that? So she was constantly doing that. And I loved watching my mother as a kid. And the one moment in particular that I'll leave you with is that I believe we were sitting in the Tuileries Gardens, and we were walking, and then we sat there holding hands. And she said, can you believe it? All the way from West Philly, and here we are in the middle of our dreams. And I held her hand. We both sat there, and we both were just like, we're in the middle of our dreams. And I think she's the one who always teaches me to dream. She's always taught me that. And I knew in that moment, when you dream it, you can actually achieve it. And because we did. And my dream was her dream, and her dream was mine. And we both were right there in that crossroads together. And that was also I'll finish with this. That was also the trip that she told Margot that she wasn't feeling well. And they had private girl talk with Margot and her sisters. And then later my mother found out she had lupus, and then my mother would pass on 3 years later. But I always knew that, like, my mother in her last weeks, before she knew she was passing, she would just say, we will always have Paris. And so I always go to Paris. I go to Paris now every year, once a year.
And you know she's with you, right?
Yeah, and I walk the same streets. I go and have some food. She left ta-ta-tan. I will go have some ta-ta-tan. And I think that was the gift that like you gave me, and Sue and Margot, and I'll never forget it. It stays with me.
Colman Domingo, brother, friend, colleague, activist, actor, writer, director, son, husband. Thank you so much for your time today. I know you're super busy. This has been a blessing to all of us who participated today. This is the inaugural broadcast, if I may use that word, of this conversation. I hope you will come back out here one day and hang out, have a beer.
I will.
But brother, you are a gem. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your love. We hope to see you in more and more and more things. We all wish you well. We all wish you safety. We all take good care of yourself in New York. Wear your mask.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And God bless you from all of us who care and love you so much. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Love you too, Peter. And Peter, you're a gift to all of us. Thank you, my brother.
I so appreciate that coming from you. Take good care of yourself, man.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.